Lastly, I wanted to just speak about ESIC. It's not a grant. It's another tax program. I think it's hasn't received enough publicity that it should. So the way you should be thinking about ESIC is that it's providing indirectly assistance for a business. It makes the cost of investment cheaper for an investor. So whilst the business has to be eligible, an ESIC eligible company, the direct benefit goes to the investor. So there's really two components that are worth discussing. And the main thing is, the first thing is that, so typically if you were to invest in, say Tim said, Dominic, invest in my company, and I invested $1 million. Now I'd be able to realize that $1 million expenditure when I sold the shares, typical capital gain, or hopefully not a capital loss. With ESIC, what it says is that $1 million will give you a 20% rebate, tax rebate. So it's capped at $200,000, that's why I use $1 million. So if I had a tax bill, unfortunately, of $200,000 from other activities, I could then offset that tax bill completely by the $200,000 ESIC rebate that I received from investing in Tim's company. That's pretty good. But even better, if we're looking we're being more aspirational, is that there's modified CGT treatment. So from year 2 to 10, so after 12 months, I guess it's year 1 to 10, if you were to sell your shares for a capital gain, there'd be no capital gains tax. So it's a pretty good program. The way that the problems with this program is that, we're tending to see that, with our clients who invest, not necessarily our clients who are actually the companies, we'll come and do a tax return, and the client will give us a statement saying, hey, it's an ESIC eligible investment, claim me the 20% rebate. And then we'll say, yeah, can we see some documentation from the company? And then it'll be like an email, yes, we're eligible. And the problem is that it's the investor who's going to have the problem down the track, because it's in their tax return. They're the ones that get audited and reviewed. They're the ones that get charged penalties for recklessness or carelessness, and they're the ones that get charged interest on any underpaid tax. So this is very important where you get an advisor involved. You can do a couple of ways to work out the criteria. Yep. You can do the points-based, Tim, if you...
Yeah. So this is by far and away, if you can, the company should assess on this basis, because it's quite objective. So you get points for things like making an R&D tax incentive claim in the prior year, for registering a design or a patent. And if you have those two things, you probably get your 100 points. You can also do an incubation course. It's, in a time-limited incubator. So if you can get your 100 points that way, that's quite secure and that's quite safe. A lot of companies can't get the 100 points. So then you have to demonstrate that you are an ESIC company on the basis of, that in principle you are. And then you have to argue the point around, basically there's about 6 criteria, but it's about you're focused on bringing an innovative product or process to the market, and that it's got large commercial potential and it's scalable and will be applicable to, to a larger market than just, the immediate region. So a coffee shop, no good, because it's only going to appeal to, the local suburb, but it's sort of a multi-state or international type scalability, that'll be fine. Problem is, if you go down that route, you can request a private binding ruling from the ATO, and I would encourage that, because, part of the reporting obligation of the company that believes it is an ESIC and has received an investment that qualifies is they report that to the ATO, and then the ATO asks, principals, but did you get a private binding ruling, yes or no? So if the answer is no, automatically you're going to be put in a higher risk category, and then the investors may end up with a unpleasant review. Now, the principles-based is, once you get into it with the ATO, they're pretty nitpicky around those criteria. Is it scalable? What's the market potential? Are you focused on bringing an innovative product to the market? So have you already finished it? Have you finished the development? Is it already done? Well, you can fail right there. Or are you still in the process of doing it? Is it innovative? And sometimes they ask Oz industry to actually opine on that. Is this truly a new thing to the world? So you don't really want to go down that path if you can avoid it. If you do have to go down that path, I encourage you to get your clients to get a private binding ruling, because otherwise I just think self-assessing yourself on this would be really hazardous, because the ATO can be quite, nitpicky around it. So,
Yeah. All right.
So if your client is an investor in one of these, and
Yeah.
they actually have
several,
fairly
yeah,
traditional
yeah,
ones,
yep.
what do you look to see that before you put your investment in, based on it, that you want to claim an tax?
Well, how did they determine that they were ESIC, an ESIC company? Did they pass the 100 points? Yes or no? So, or did they go down the private binding route, or did they just self-assess on the principles base? If it's 100 points, then you can say, oh, well, how did you get your points? Have a look at that. If that stacks up, that's fine. You can be pretty secure in all of that. If they went principle based and they got a private binding ruling successfully, well, you're very happy with that as well. If the ATO are going to leave them alone after that. But it's really, if after some digging you realise that the company has self-assessed themselves as an ESIC on the principles without a binding ruling, that would be a red flag for me. And I would be just saying to your investor, sure, you can go ahead and claim the offset if you like, but be prepared to pay it all back if it gets looked at.
Yeah.
Or, you could get them to do some additional work, which may not be that convenient, because, you need to rely on the actually investee company to give you the information. But it'd be quite...
It's better.
That'd be a
Better while they're trying to get your money, right?
Yeah.
Better to get all that
I'm
information.
surprised
Yeah.
the tax office doesn't have some sort of process that they have to go through rather than
just self-assessment. Yeah.
self-assessment.
Yeah.
Because there's a substantial amount of money involved.
Well, there is on, if you imagine if you launched the next Canva or Atlassian and you sold, you had $1 million investment in one of those and sold at year 10.
Well, the one that I
Yeah.
know of, they're raising millions of dollars.
Yeah.
For an Australian project.
Yeah.
No.
The other thing you need to look at there is ESIC, there's restrictions around spending in the last 3 years and profit. So you can't spend more than $1 million per year, for example. So, it's pretty easy once they start to get to raise big sums of money. They pretty quickly stop being an ESIC once they start spending big sums on their development.
Yeah.
So you just need to look at that.